Let's go, baby.
Do you actually have to be on cocaine to be on this podcast?
It's a great day to be a Wildcat.
Cocaine.
Durfing.
What's up, everybody? You're listening to yet another edition of Cocaine Willie. I am your commissioner, Bob Trollsby, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, the good chef, Andre Napier, and Fireball Matt Marchesini. Tonight, we're going to go through Fireball Matt's Burn It Down moments of Week 3, of which there were probably many, in our matchup against the Missouri Tigers, and our predictions and chef's recipe for success against UCF this week. We've also got our locks standings update and our Week 4 locks. But first and foremost, Chef, I just have to say, maybe if Andre's locks were better week over week, you wouldn't be wearing that brown paper sack right now over your face.
This is really shameful, and it makes me want to do better. So
I hope so.
It makes me want to do better too, because I want to fucking wear that brown paper sack over my face.
I will be mailing this to you guys in the mail express, and I'm gonna split it. I'm gonna make one for each of you, so you know the pain that I'm feeling right now.
Sounds good. Well, we haven't done a full recap episode. We don't plan to do a full recap episode for the Missouri game. One of us was there. Two of us were not there. Let's go into the Burn It Down segment. Matt, you were there in person. You witnessed this crap in
Burn it down. Burn everything to the ground.
First person, what was your Burn It Down moment or moments from the matchup against Missouri? And before we get into that, I just have to say, I fucking hate Missouri fans, but props to them for flooding our mentions on Twitter, flooding our YouTube comments on the previous videos. They did not pull any punches, and I at least respect that as much as I hate them.
No respect. They don't get no respect. Okay, what movie is that from? The Godfather?
No respect? That's Rodney Dangerfield.
Rodney Dangerfield.
I got no respect.
The complete opposite of The Godfather?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
Right.
Marlon Brando, Rodney Dangerfield, tomato.
Same thing.
Let's dance.
There were plenty of burn it down moments of that game. And internally, I very much burned it down. If you saw our text message thread, but I'm going to give the one burn it down moment of the week, and it's the late drive and the delay a game at the 3-yard line that changed the dynamic of that game, unfortunately. And you go up a touchdown. Trayshawn Ward had that touchdown, and it gets brought back because of the delay game. The execution for this team this week was not great. A lot of drops. Things of that nature. But I'm going to look at that delay game as a time where you have to execute so late in the fourth quarter, especially, in a game that's gone back and forth, and you're just not taking advantage of it. So I'm going to go with the delay game at the 3-yard line as the burn it down moment of the week.
Yeah, that whole sequence at the end was it's brutal. We had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, right there, a little bit past, what were we, just a little bit past the 50 or close to the 50-yard line. Ben Sinnott drops one that would have put us near like the 30-yard line or something like that, somewhere around that area. And we could have just sat on the ball and kicked the game-winning field goal. That one hurt. The delay game, absolutely. Each team, nobody wanted to win. That's what the killer part. Nobody wanted to win towards the end. And, it was a perfect ending for how K-State played that evening. When you bring a C effort to a necessary B plus A game, you're going to lose. So That's my review of the game, and I'm not talking about it any mo.
Yep, I agree with you both. That was horrible. I hated it. And we're moving on to UCF. And with that, Chef, what's your recipe for success against the Golden Knights of Central Florida?
Oh, man, you're gonna whip it up in this kitchen again. We gotta come with a victory. And my last recipe, absolute disaster. The patrons sent it back. Chef had to throw it out. It was
The
garbage.
patrons. This is like a fancy steakhouse, I guess.
Exactly.
Saint
We're
Wingstop.
fine dining. We thought we were going to be undefeated fine dining, and that recipe wasn't any good. It was a garbage recipe, and it's not going to happen again. This time, guess what? We have to put pressure on the backup quarterback. He's a backup. He was very successful last week versus Villanova. Our strength is our D-line. We have to put pressure on this guy. We have to. They have playmakers everywhere. You look at it, everybody has insane numbers. The only guy that can get them the ball is the quarterback. If we can get to him before he can get the ball out to those playmakers and, try to pick on our secondary and I'm sure I don't even want to talk about it, our one less linebacker, it's something that we have to do. So I'm expecting a big game from Brendan Mott, Nate Matlack, Uso Sayamalo, Khalid Duke. We have to have something from those D linemen to get to the quarterback. We were slightly successful versus Missouri, but we have to be even more successful versus UCF.
I'm not going to lie. I feel confident that we're going to hold them to below 70 yards rushing. I mean, it's not like we've got world beaters at running back. They've got two good running backs, but the way that this rush defense has played so far, I feel confident that they're going to do their job and deliver. The thing I'm scared about is that secondary, because we made Brady Cook look great out there, and he obviously has Luther Burden. He has one of the best wide receivers in college football, but
their whole Missouri's whole off receiving core. I mean, it's not like they were scrubs. I mean, Luther Burden, like you just mentioned, Theo Weiss, he was a production fiend at Oklahoma. And then you got a true freshman that was highly touted behind that caught the long bomb on Siegel. And then the Mookie kid, he transferred from Ohio State. I mean, they got pedigree in that wide receiver core. So, I mean, will we see that versus UCF? Bob, I don't know. And we're down Daniel Green, so I'm worried about the run. I'm worried about that middle linebacker position.
I think that's fair. Matt, what are your thoughts going into this weekend?
You got to pull out all the stops to try and get a win. I mean, the next 4 games are the way how things have looked. You can really, you can't write this season off by any stretch. We can all disagree with how we think Missouri is going to be this season. They plain and simple, they executed and they found a way to beat us. We lost on a 61-yard kick by that guy, whatever.
The thicker kicker.
The thick kicker, whatever. So I'm not writing this by any means. There are a couple things that will interest me with this game. Will Howard, the past 2 games, has not looked 100%. But you look at this Missouri game, this was his best rating in his career, I believe. The PFF rating.
This was his best rating, and he's currently on pace for 3,268 yards on the season with 32 touchdowns, which would break the single season touchdown record, and it would put him in the top 5 or top 3 in all-time passing yards as a quarterback.
Yeah. So I know the past couple games, my burnt down moment has been one play where he throws an interception or something like that. And you have to live with that because he's shown effectiveness in many other facets of his game to be leading this offense. If he's not 100%, I liked some of the wrinkles we showed with Avery Johnson last week, But I always have a huge issue with keeping two quarterbacks on the field and having one as this decoy who's injured. Like, how are we going to leverage that? So that will be another thing that will be interesting to me is if we see Avery more in this UCF game, is he going to be throwing any passes? Are we going to see him in some of those situations where you're actually getting the defense off of their toes a little bit because it's not, I'm thinking about a run. I'm optimistic about this game. That's for sure. Am I giving it? Wait, are we giving a prediction for this? Did I completely miss that?
No, I kind of.
You're actually asking me
for your version of Chef's recipe for success, but I'm genuinely curious. Like, this is the first real time that this team has faced adversity this season because you're coming off of a loss against a very solid, what I think is a very solid Missouri team at this point in the season. We'll see when 12 games are played if they end up that way, but this team is going to have to deliver on Saturday, and they're going to have to prove some people wrong. They fell out of the AP poll after a 3-point loss on a 61-yard field goal kick. So they're going to be playing with that chip on the shoulder that we have kind of known and loved as K-State fans, that this team is always going to play better when they have that chip on their shoulder and they've got something to prove. So I feel good about this weekend, but I want to get everybody's thoughts on this weekend because it's the first real, like, okay, we're going to see if this team is legit or not.
To me, this is a bridge game. This is what can, Bosco's boys did their whole thing where they tell you what's the swing game. This is a bridge game to me. It could go either way. What side of the bridge are you going to be on when it goes up? Are you going to be going down, or are you going to be past it? Because if UCF is giving us fits and we don't figure it out, we could be very, 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 very hurt after this because we're losing pieces. We're not functioning at the way we should be. It's tough. So Austin Romaine, this is your, on the job training right here. This is for you because it's a Daniel Green had his time. He's out probably for the season, more than likely. Austin Romaine, this is our look into the future. This is probably going to be our starting middle linebacker next year. And I shouldn't say that because, we have Jake Clifton. Who knows when he's coming back, but in between there, you got Austin Romaine to fill the void at middle linebacker. You've got Keegan Johnson that needs to get healthy. You have right tackle issues. I don't know what to call them, but you have to figure that out. Maybe it's a whole different look once we figure out all those questions and how this team looks forward. But right now, this is the one on the docket. Like Matt said, you have to pull out all the stops to get this dub. You got to have it.
Do you think we're going to see there? A lot of the commentary after the game was we didn't have a very inspired play calling in the game against Missouri offensively. And there were some people who even equated it looked kind of like Courtney Messingham and some of the previous play calling that we saw. What were your thoughts on some of that commentary, and what do you think we're going to see this weekend?
I didn't see some of the commentary because I did. First off, that stadium is like a shithole. There's no Wi-Fi. I mean, I was very lucky to get any text messages whatsoever in there. So Twitter was I felt non-existent. The play calling was very interesting because I didn't feel like there was a lot of aggressiveness at times that I've seen, especially on some of those third down plays. So that there were times where I just felt it was a little bit more conservative than I had seen in previously called games from Colin Klein. Which again, it's a game plan thing. Things will change. And maybe you want to be a little bit more conservative, knowing Missouri's going to come up with some certain lineup or whatnot. But I'm not concerned about it because he's shown more aggressiveness and a really good ability to call plays. And you can't expect that game after game. There's going to be some duds in there. but the duds, like for really great programs, it's the dud games that you still win, right? I mean, we're seeing that from Alabama, right? The USF game on Saturday, I mean, a dud like for them. And USF is not great, but it's still a win. So I don't see the comparison, especially when I remember some of those Messingham offenses where it was just it didn't click. And I think just this was a game where if you execute on a few plays, it ends up being a win. I mean, I feel like it was that much of a coin flip at the end of the thing. So I don't know. I'm not concerned about him and the play calling at all.
I didn't get the conservative. For me, it almost felt like the Tulane game. Like not the play calling similar to Tulane, where it was just not executed. Because if those things happen, we're like, okay, that was, pretty good play calling. I mean, a drop by Ben Sinnott on third down that would have kept a drive going. One by Trayshawn Ward, a pass on third down to keep a drive going. Ben Sinnott in the middle of the field driving in the fourth quarter to win the game. Drop. It's just execution things. I don't think it was the play calling. There was some run on third down, but you got to throw those in there too. You can't just, especially when Will Howard's hobbled. It's obvious. That first scripted drive, there's quarterback reads, he's running, he's doing all kinds of different things. That was a very good scripted first drive. And I would have expected more of that if we would have had a healthy Will Howard, but we didn't. So, you have to change up what you're doing throughout it. And everybody's going to nitpick play calling. It's easy to do that, but we don't know if Will Howard's changing those plays at the line, any of that stuff. So I can't get on play calling, but I will say that we tried to do what we had to do and we just didn't execute. Very similar to Tulane last year. That's what it was for me.
I agree. Last thing that I'm going to ask about is Will Howard this weekend. Do we feel confident in his health? Do we feel confident in where things are at with him from a physical standpoint? I guess I'm just curious because I was very concerned in that game on Saturday against Missouri, and he was clearly hobbled. I didn't want to see him, forcing it. I didn't want to see our staff forcing it if he wasn't really 100%. Do you think we're going to see a healthy Will Howard this weekend? He's not hobbled. He's doing what he needs, or do you think he's going to be kind of limping around out there?
I don't think he's been healthy since week one. SEMO, we were running quarterback sneaks with, 3 minutes left and, putting him under 700 pounds of offensive linemen and defensive linemen on his legs. He was limping from day one. So I don't think he's been healthy. I think it was just more accentuated how, banged up he really is going against an SEC defense. He was taking some licks. So I don't think he's been healthy all season. He was taking shots in that Troy game, trying to run into the end zone. Took a huge hit then. Took some monster hits this game. So I don't think we're going to see. Unfortunately, if I had to put money on, I don't think we'll see a healthy Will Howard all season. But I don't think anybody really. If we see Will Howard the entire season, that is an upgrade from what we've had for quarterback situations the past 10 years. So
for sure,
let's just have him finish it.
I would agree. We're going to be very fortunate to have a bye week that is right after this game.
Early one, yeah.
An early bye week is going to be very helpful. If Will can make it through this game and he's like 70% and you come out with a win and you have a bye week where he can get healthy, Christian Duffy can get to 100%. Keegan Johnson, we can get him to see hopefully an increase in snaps this week. We have guys that are on, Jake Clifton, another guy. This early bye week is going to be huge for us. If you make it through with a win and you come off on a positive where you can then just get some guys feeling good, for the Oklahoma State game. And, we see Oklahoma State has had some struggles, but we've also struggled playing in Stillwater too. So just getting ready for that game, I think is going to be huge. So we really lucked out with an early bye week this year with how things have played out so far.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating stretch, because then after that you've got Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU, and Houston. And Houston is definitely the easiest game out of those four, but nothing is a given in the Big 12. Nothing is a given any given Saturday. Any team can win out of these 14 teams.
This year is absolutely insane, dude. I mean, we're talking this week. What is this? Week 4. Week 4, the prime time, like heads above everybody else is BYU and Kansas. Basically, like battling for second behind Texas. So I mean, it's nuts to think about.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Well, prediction wise, let's give our scores, and then we'll talk locks, and then we'll close it out. But Chef, hit us first with your prediction. You're on mute.
I just couldn't remember. I think it's going to be another tight one. I absolutely give all the respect in the world to UCF. I think they have talent on talent. And I don't know how their offensive line is. We just talked to Dolly Drama. What is his name?
Dolly Drama
for the UCF kind of preview. He didn't really bring up the O-line. And he was worried about our D-line. So I don't know how their offensive line is, but I know they have skill talent and a quarterback that can get it out to them. I think it's going to be a very, very tight game. If our defense doesn't respond the way, it's hard to respond after 1 week. I mean, as much as we like to think it was after Tulane, we got Oklahoma. I mean, we put it on Oklahoma, but it was still a game that could have went either way. I got the score 38-33. Tight one. I mean, that's a high scoring game, but I think UCF is got some playmakers, dude. So we got to be on our P's and Q's. But I think Will Howard, he's been showing some crazy stats, man. Bob, you just mentioned it a little bit ago. I mean, he's got what? Was he responsible for, like 11 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, at least? So he'll will us to win.
There's a will, there's a way. Am I right? So I'm thinking 34-24 this Saturday. There's a couple particular things that make me go in this direction. I think UCF having a backup quarterback coming in to an environment that typically those late games for us are just really, the atmosphere is kind of at a level that it's kind of hard to describe, but I feel like if we play a night game, we're going to have a crowd that's going to be amped up to see these guys win. I'm very much, I think Will Howard is going to come out and have an energy of, as you kind of said, finding a way to get this team to win. I will say, I do think we're going to get a special teams touchdown or a defensive touchdown. I think that's going to help be a little bit of a difference maker here. So I'm going to say 34-24 Cats and 4.5 over-under shots. Nope.
I'm going to go 35-30 Cats. I struggle with this. I think UCF is legitimately, they're the best of the 4 teams coming into the Big 12 this year. You could argue BYU, but I just one game against Arkansas isn't going to sell me on BYU. I'm very curious to see how this game against KU goes, because I think KU might have some juice, even though I mean, that game against Nevada was wild, dude. They were toe to toe with Nevada under the lights, and it was like, Nevada's not a good team this year. So that was kind of wild. But I do think UCF, they're not built like a G5 team. They haven't been built like a G5 team. They've been built like a Big 12 team for quite some time now. They've got the recruiting prowess to show for it, and they're gonna be right up there with the talent level of pretty much every other team that's going to be in the Big 12 after this season, if not higher than them. And the recruiting rankings show for it going into the season. So I just think they're built like a team that's going to do well in the Big 12. And K-State is obviously a great team in the Big 12. I think UCF is going to have some juice coming into this game. It's their first conference matchup in the Big 12. I feel good about them coming into this game and giving us giving us their best shot. So I think 35-30 Cats. Our secondary is going to give up some points. They're going to give up some explosive plays, I think, and they've got a quarterback and the talent at receiver, I think, to let that happen. But that's what I've got for my prediction, and that rounds it out for our predictions. We're going to go into our locks. Chef, do you want to do something there and pull out a brown paper sack potentially?
I gotta put it back on.
Oh yeah.
The deal was that you're going to wear it for this segment.
That's how it works. Oh my God.
So just a reminder for those of you who are new to the show or haven't listened to our locks segment before this season, each week we share our locks for 3 Big 12 matchups, 1 national game of the week, and 1 sicko game. The national game of the week, some of us have had some struggles defining what that is, but I think we're getting closer to dialing that in. But we're going to go ahead and start it off with Fireball Matt this week. He led the way again, going 4-1. He's in first place for the whole season. I got second last week with a 3-2 record, and Andre's locks are in last place with a 2-3 record last week. So Matt leads the pack with an 11-3-1 record overall so far this year. I came in second, or I am currently coming up in second with an 8-7 record overall. And Andre's locks are behind me with a 7-7-1 record overall.
I mean, I'm batting 500. You know, that gets you into the Hall of Fame in a lot of sports. So
it does. And if you come out slightly ahead, technically you're making money. Technically, but you didn't make money last week. You went 2-3.
Everybody has those weeks, so you know we'll just keep grinding, and I'm coming for you guys. You know, you guys are gonna be wearing this big ass brown bag soon, baby.
Well,
hopefully it's a plastic bag for Matt, so he fucking smothers on it.
I can't wait for you to soundbite that where it's like, then I die from asphyxiation, and I blame what's his fuck over there. All right. So last, yeah, my locks. I went 4-1 last week. Thanks Nevada, which I knew that was going to happen. Week 4. So a few Big 12 games. I'm going to have Baylor covering 15.5, hosting Texas. We saw Baylor, against Utah. They kept that close. And Texas didn't necessarily look great against Wyoming. Another reason why I won last week. And then I'm going to have Oklahoma State, a 3.5 point dog going on the road to Iowa State. It's really kind of like it's the Gundy Campbell sucky bowl right now because both teams are obviously terrible. I feel like Oklahoma State's going to kind of get it together for that game. And actually, I think they're going to beat Iowa State. But I'm going to take the points. And then I have Texas Tech covering 5.5 at West Virginia. I'm not super confident about that one, but I had to pick another Big 12 one. So I'm going with that. My national game of the week, I have Notre Dame hosting Ohio State. They're 3.5 point dog. I have Notre Dame covering that. And I do think Notre Dame is going to win that game against Ohio State. In South Bend. And then my sicko game of the week, it is Georgia, but UAB is a 42.5 point dog on the road at Georgia. And 42.5 is a lot of points. It's a lot of points.
It's a lot of
points to try and cover. So I'm going to say UAB covers 42.5 in Georgia. There you go.
Has Georgia scored 42 points yet this season?
See, that's the Iowa method of thinking here, but I do believe that Georgia has scored 42. I thought, didn't they not?
I think they have, and you got to realize that
they scored 45 against Ball State, but they wouldn't have covered a 42.5-point line against Ball State.
You got to realize this team is coached by Trent Dilfer, so I think they might score negative points. So
I don't know, dude. Maybe they'll come with some juice. Who knows? Bob's locks, week 4. I've got Sam Houston State covering the line against Houston plus 12.5. Sam Houston State, kind of a surprise this season so far. They've played relatively competitively in pretty much every game they've had. And Houston still sucks at football and will continue to suck throughout the season. I like the Bearcats with a K because for some reason they spell it with a K in the matchup against Houston, at Houston on the road at TDECU Stadium, which is the ugliest fucking name for a stadium on the planet. Cincinnati, I've got plus 14.5. It is their first conference game as members of the Big 12. They're playing the Oklahoma Sooners. OU has not had a real test this season. The question is whether or not Cincinnati is legitimate at all. And I don't think they are, but I think they make it a contest. I think they at least keep it competitive, and I think they cover against Oklahoma with the Sooners maybe eking out a close victory there. But my third lock for Big 12 play, I've got TCU minus 6.5 versus SMU. SMU sucks, man. I hate SMU. They suck. They think they're the shit because they're going to the ACC, even though they're giving up 7 years worth of TV payouts in order to do it because they've got like 3 big oil money people, including the Hunt family, bankrolling their organization. But I've got TCU covering the 6.5. For my national game, I still have not missed on a CU bet so far this season. I did not pick them last week. They were not included in my locks, but I've got them plus 21.5 at Oregon. I mean, everybody's looking at this line like, okay, they played Colorado State, but that's a huge rivalry here in Colorado. Colorado State gave them their absolute best shot, and CU's going to go into that game. They're going to be hyped up, dude. It's going to be... They're going to easily cover the 21.5, and they might eke out a victory for all we know. And then my sicko game, I've got USF plus 2.5 versus Rice.
That is a sicko game for sure. Let's go.
Daniels versus the team that almost beat Alabama last week. Like, come on. Go Bulls. Fuck Rice.
You don't lose to food. That's the rule. You just don't lose to food. Shout out to Josh Pate and the Late Kick Live. For my picks this week, I sound and look ridiculous, but this is all part of my grand plan. Me and Bob, we've got literally the opposite picks for almost everything. So one of us is going to be wearing this fucking headgear. I got SMU at TCU plus 6.5. I said last week that SMU was better than I thought, and they should have hung with that game with Oklahoma. Not last week, but the week before. I think it might have been the week before that. Not sure, but they're better than you think. Give me the plus 6.5 points at TCU, SMU. Let's go, baby. Oklahoma at Cincinnati. You were aware that Miami of Ohio beat Cincinnati, right? I'm just making sure that you knew.
I am aware.
Okay. There's no fucking.
It's a bounce back.
There's no bounce back in Cincinnati. It's the Queen City, for God's sake. There's no that shit's over for. Oklahoma's going to smush them into oblivion. Give me Oklahoma minus the points. Oh, and here we go. BYU at KU. 9.5-point dogs to KU? Are you nuts?
I just can't with this paper bag right now and the mannerisms in the back.
Zoom in real close.
Listen, 9.5-point dogs to KU is absolutely nuts. Slovis is going to get it done. I think BYU is saltier than you think, and they're not putting any respect on that Arkansas win. Give me BYU plus the points, 9.5. Let's go. We got the same freaking national game, Bob. We're just riding against each other. I think Oregon's going to smush them into oblivion. Travis Hunter's supposed to be out for a while too. So
next man up.
All right, sure.
Go Buffs.
Dylan. Oh God, that's gross. Oregon, all day at home. Are you nuts, dude? They're gonna. No, I mean, what is that? Nebraska's home environment is going to look like dog shit compared to Oregon's. Here we go. And in my sicko game of the week, New Mexico at UMass. Dude, who even has a win in this one? I don't even know. I didn't look at their records. I just know that these teams stink. Absolutely stink. UMass minus the points. Go ahead at home. That means they give 3 points for the home environment. This is a pick'em game, basically. Give me UMass minus the points. Let's go.
That is a sicko game. That's a great sicko game.
Before we end this, the entire time you're talking, if we have any I think you should leave aficionados and you need to watch this YouTube, because all I can picture is Chef in the skit where the guy's like, get this fucking shit off me.
Chef's gonna cough and flop in a week.
There's too much fucking shit on me.
It looks like a Detroit Lions fan from 2008. Well, that does it for our week 4 locks. We're not doing guys talking ball because it's I don't know, we're 36 minutes in.
I had one question. Not long. I just want one. I haven't been to a K-State night game since I was a kid. We've all heard the problems of, the no re-entry and all that stuff, and crowds always kind of look a little sparse after halftime. How does it look at nighttime? I mean, is it bad too? Because there's really no reason to leave at nighttime.
People still leave.
Is it bad though?
I mean, I don't notice it any worse. I guess I don't notice it any differently, but it's still, you know what, Missouri, I'm all in on no more entry. Sell alcohol in the stadium. I'm all in. I do think there are times where I think it is great to be able to leave and go and tailgate or whatever, but we probably can't prove it statistically that your team comes out flat at the beginning of the third quarter, but why even take the risk, Right. Sell beer in the stadium and it's good. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I have to think the last game I probably went to that was a night game at the Bill was probably 2014 against Auburn. I think that's the last night game at the Bill that I have been to personally.
What a game.
Wasn't the Texas game at 6 p.m. last year? That was a night game.
Was it? Or was it a 2:30 game?
That was a night game.
Oh, it was a night game. Yeah. Well, outside of that game, it's 2 losses in a row, I guess.
Damn, boy.
But I'm not there. I'm not there this weekend. But, there's nothing like a night game at the Bill, man, regardless of who we're playing. I feel really good about that environment. I think the environment's going to be great. And yeah, I'm pro get rid of exit reentry and just sell beer in the stadium. What are you going to piss off a handful of college students that go out and tailgate and pregame the second half, whatever. The student section, if anything, probably comes back more in full force than the rest of the stadium does. And I don't know, we're going to experience this firsthand. I know a lot of people make the argument of, if you've got a kid or if you've got a baby or something, you might want to go out, but there's nursing stations and stuff throughout the stadium too.
I was going to say, all this talk about pregame, pregame the second half and all that stuff. When I went there, there were so many places that you could just literally drink and just have fun out on at these little drinking stations and stuff like that. It's all open. What's the difference between the parking lot and
cowboy
right
boots and smuggle some shit in?
Yeah, that's what Matt does. Get them shots in there, baby.
No, I don't need cowboy boots for that. You just got a little on the waistband, just.
Hey, this is a PG show, okay? I don't need you flashing your little groin at me.
Okay. Yo, there's gonna be so many sound bites from Chef's big ass talking this weekend, and he's gonna be 1-5, 1-4 in picks. Honestly, 1-5. He only picked 5 games, and he's gonna lose all 5 and somehow get a win somewhere.
We'll see.
There's a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit being talked right now. It's going to be, we're going to keep tabs on this throughout the weekend, and we'll let everybody know how things turn out. But I mean, I don't have anything else. Do y'all have anything else before we get out of here?
No, I'm good, baby.
Well, for all of us at Cocaine Willie, thanks for listening or watching. Do us a favor. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, leave us a 5-star rating. We are undefeated. We only have 5-star ratings on Spotify. Let's bolster that number. Let's get that up. Mizzou fans did not get an opportunity to go to Spotify and leave us like a 1-star rating. So they might have won in other ways, but they also gave us like the most views we've ever had on a non-live show YouTube video. So appreciate you, Mizzou fans, for doing that. But give us a like on the video, like all those Missouri fans did. As always, you can follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube at Cocaine Willie, or follow us individually. I am at Bob Trollsby. Fireball Matt is at Matt Marchesini, and the good chef is at Chef Andre Napier.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
We are all coke and no joke, except for Andre's locks. Wildcat Country.
Let's ride.
Come on, man. I need 5-0 this week. Let's go.